In this video, we'll discuss social engineering and phishing. Social engineering is yet another form of reconnaissance, as is phishing, spelt with a PH instead of an F. And we're not talking about the relaxing type of phishing here. Social engineering is really the equivalent of deceiving people. It's trickery. Phishing is a form of social engineering. Now, the goal of social engineering and phishing is to have victims divulge sensitive information. You're trying to fool people to do that. So, that sensitive information would include things like usernames, passwords, bank account information, and so on. So, the victim then believes in the legitimacy of the perpetrator. Perpetrators then exploit people's fears often. So there might be some kind of a social engineering or phishing scam where we pretend to be law enforcement tracking internet activity. And so there's a pop up that might display on the user's screen. And because people are afraid of imprisonment, if there's a message that says to send money to a certain PO number or through a Western Union money transfer, they may actually pay up. It happens. Another way that perpetrators can exploit people's fears are from the tax man. So there might be an email phishing scam whereby we claim to be the government and that income taxes are past due, and that to avoid penalties and higher interest charges on the outstanding balance, people need to pay immediately using a credit card or by sending a money transfer. Again, playing on people's fears. So here's an example of social engineering where in step one, a malicious user calls an unsuspecting victim claiming to be a telephone company technician that needs to come on site to fix a problem. Now, of course, the malicious user will have done their homework. They will have performed reconnaissance so they know who the telephony provider is for this specific victim company they're targeting, and they might get to know the name of the receptionist, know what kind of telephony services the company uses, and so on. Number two, the victim would then set the appointment date and time. They would probably have no reason to believe that it was a scam if things were done properly by the malicious user. In step three, the malicious user shows up, dressed in the appropriate clothing, carrying the appropriate tools, so they look like the real deal. In step four, the victim would then let the malicious user into, in this case, a wiring closet or a server room to fix the quote unquote problems with the telephone system. Now, in step five, the malicious user has physical access to network infrastructure gear. That is a problem. In a phishing example, in step one, a malicious user would send an email message to a harvested email address. Now, of course, this would be automated and would be sent to thousands of email addresses that were harvested, in most cases, probably illegally. The message would appear to come from a reputable bank, for instance, and the message would ask the user to reset their password and provide a link to a site. And, even if the user follows that link, it looks like their banking site. It looks legitimate. Really, it's a fake website that looks like the real thing that's under control of the malicious user. So then in number two, the victim clicks the link and enters sensitive banking information, which of course is captured by the malicious website. So the malicious user's website would then display a message to the user telling them that the bank is experiencing technical difficulties, so of course it can't actually show them their accounts, and that the user should try again later. Of course, when the user tries again later, it's too late. In this example, I've received an email message from what appears to be my bank. But if we look carefully at who it says it's from at the top of this email message, the email address looks like it's coming from some kind of an educational institution. And the message is telling me that someone tried to access my bank account from a device on a certain date from a certain IP address in Canada and that it wasn't successful. And so, due to this, the bank has locked my account and everything is frozen. All my funds are frozen. So, to unfreeze them, all you have to do is click this link and then everything will be good. Now, this smells of phishing scam, and most certainly it is. So even if this happens to be a bank you actually do business with, do not click any links. You would need to actually go through the normal channels you would do to sign in to ensure that nothing is wrong with your account. It doesn't matter what type of security controls technically you have in place. If people aren't aware of this type of scam, they can circumvent most of your security controls and still wreak havoc on the network by infecting machines or divulging sensitive information. So, user awareness and training is absolutely number one. So, what can we do about social engineering and phishing issues? Well, technically, there are a few mitigating controls, like email spam filters can help. But at the administrative mitigation control level is where we really focus on, as we've emphasized, user training and awareness. This might be done through lunch and learns, through documentation, part of orientation for new employee hires, and so on. We might even have posters in the workplace, something that's creative and fun and interesting that gets the point across about these potential security problems. In this video, we talked about social engineering and phishing.